What innocent question that someone asked you crushed you a little? When will we dig up Dad? Asked by my almost 5-year-old son. He's never met him as his dad died 3 months before birth. This goes along with the question, when will Dad stop being dead? My 4-year-old died. It amazed me how many times little kids, of family friends, have to be reminded. Same here. The hardest part was telling my wife repeatedly as she was pretty out of it on pain meds, related to the same accident. My acne was so bad that a co-worker asked if I'd been in a car accident or something. That one cut deep. That's harsh. I worked at an alternative high school, and one of our students had severe acne. He told all his classmates that the football team at his old high school held him down and poured battery acid on his face, which we know wasn't true. His acne became his identity. He tried committing at age 16 by jumping from his mother's car on a highway and suffered TBI. I now work for a non-profit that supports adults with disabilities, and he is a client with my current agency. His acne is cleared up, but he has severe disabilities now from his attempt. Holy balls. That is so extremely sad. I don't know what to say. Mum asked me, "Who are you?" when I visited her recently. She has dementia. Mother-in-law, who has known me my entire life, recently asked me to remind her what my name is again. Yeah, I can relate to this one. My nan had dementia. She's passed away now, but it was a mad experience. Just like watching her deteriorate. It's almost like she went back to being a child, like just forgot how to do normal day-to-day tasks and obviously had no idea who we were as well. Yeah, it's a heartbreaking illness. It really is. A friend looked at me and said, "I know we've talked about it before, but how did you break your nose?" I've never broken my nose. This is just how it looks. When me, my dad and my sister were driving to another town to get away from my mum, so we could eat without getting yelled at and stuff thrown at us, because my sister asked why mummy was so mean. And my dad had to simplify to her level that her mum was an alcoholic. She was 6. Not a question, but my 8-year-old niece once remarked, "You don't laugh anymore." My nephew once asked me, "Uncle, why'd you look so sad?" Like, geez, kid. I was playing doctor with a 3-year-old girl once. I'd been struggling with depression a lot lately at the time. So when she asked me what was wrong today, I told her, "Sometimes I just get sad." She had a clipboard with a sheet of square paper stickers on it. She nodded thoughtfully, scribbled something on her paper, then ripped off a sticker and stuck it to my shirt, saying, "Here's a duck for you. He'll make you happy." I still have that little pink duck sticker. I put it inside of my laptop above the keyboard. Oh, do you know what? You can always rely on a lovely little kid to make you laugh. Or to annoy the frick out of you. I worked in retail when I was younger, and people would always be like, "Oh, do you have any ideas for Father's Day? What did you get your dad?" My dad committed when I was 16. They had no way of knowing, but that really hurt. This reminds me of a time I was an idiot. I was cashiering, and we had some red roses that were pretty popular. I rang up some lad, dressed quite nice, purchasing the roses, and I asked if they were for anyone special, you know. Well, no, they were for his recently passed dad's grave. I apologised so hard, but he said it was fine and he's doing well. But it was time to change the flowers. Shut me the frick up real quick. Oh, there's literally nothing worse, is there? It's like when you say to someone, "Oh, when's the baby due?" And it turns out they're actually just a fat frick. Co-worker innocently asked, "Who does the cooking at your house?" I had very recently separated from my wife and was living alone. When I was 13, my mum got a divorce from a man who I can only refer to as a step monster. I worked all summer to save up money since we didn't have a lot, and I was worried we wouldn't even have enough to pay the bills. I ended up having a few dollars left over and wanted to buy my mum a gift. She mentioned she needed a new watch for her birthday. I went to the jeweler and got a $100 Gold Citizen Evo Drive watch. It was functional and it looked really nice. When I gave it to her, her first response was, "Thanks, honey. Did it come in silver?" I was crushed. Insult to injury. She started dating a guy around the same time and he bought her a rubbish silver watch. She ended up wearing this one over mine. 18 years later, and it still hurts when I think about it. How are you handling everything? My notary public, who also happens to be my boss's boss, while notarizing my divorce paperwork. Completing a divorce packet with no help from an attorney can be a real pain in the bum, but at least it kept me focused on the Baratic bull nonsense part of it rather than the fact that my 9-year marriage was ending. Turned out that as soon as someone asked me sincerely how I was doing, the answer was not well at all. I went back to my desk and had a panic attack. I always find, though, that I'm okay until someone actually asks me. Like, in school, for instance, where you'd fall over or trip over and it actually didn't really hurt that much and you were okay. But someone goes, "Oh, are you okay?" And then that makes you cry. It's kind of the same situation here. Do you know what I mean? Like, you think you've got it under control or you think you've healed and recovered. Then someone brings up the question and that sparks like the emotion. Do you know what I mean? Rough night last night? Usually asked with a big smile. I was asked that all the time when I was younger because I had a really obvious tremor. Thing is, I did not drink or do drugs at all, and I had no idea what was wrong with me. I was eventually diagnosed with Graves' disease and treated for it, but I still have a bit of a tremor. My 5-year-old cousin asked me where Grandpa was when we were getting ready to head to his funeral. Everyone went silent and we just kind of stared at each other until my dad managed to distract her. It was brutal. Based off of some of the comments here, I feel like I should elaborate on this. This was the first family death I've experienced, so I barely knew what to say to older children, much less a 5-year-old. We didn't want to tell her anything because we didn't know what our parents told her, so we felt like it was best to change the subject. That being said, watching children react to seeing the body at a funeral is probably one of the worst feelings I've ever experienced. Last week, my son's therapist asked me how I was holding up with everything that had been happening, and if I was remembering to take time to care for myself while I was working on helping my son. I imagine she was thinking I would just give her my usual, "Oh, I'm plugging along" response. Instead, I broke down and started sobbing and word vomited how bad everything is and how hard a time I'm having and what a selfish piece of rubbish I feel like for having the audacity to feel so bad when my son is having such a hard time. Not my best moment. Thank you for everyone for the encouragement. It was really nice to read. For what it's worth, my son's doing much better. He feels safer and he knows he has a strong group of adults behind him that love him, believe him, and are working hard to protect him. And I'm working on getting myself a therapist as well. Thank you for the idea of online therapy because that's something I'd never considered, but is probably a great solution for my time issues currently. We're going to be okay. I know that. Right now feels pretty hopeless, but I know we will get through this. I appreciate the encouragement. Why don't you ever go out? Well, because I don't have anyone to go out with. Go out anyway. It's nice outside. When are you due? I wasn't pregnant. Have since lost over 60 pounds though. Bam! There it is, guys. The money shot. I literally said that earlier. Knew it would be in here. I always wanted to study psychology in college, but my overbearing mother wouldn't have that, so I studied chemistry. In my last semester, I took an abnormal psychology class just for fun, and I crushed it, ending with a 99% average. After the final, my professor took me outside the classroom and said, "Why didn't you major in psychology? You would have made a great psychologist." That really crushed my soul. I think about that day a lot. My recently divorced ex and I worked at the same place. Divorce was not my idea, but he'd found someone new and I was heartbroken. He ended up quitting at her insistence. 6 months after the divorce was final, a co-worker asked how ex-husband was doing. Hadn't seen him since he quit, yada yada. Behind my back, another co-worker was trying to wave first co-worker off. Spent the rest of the shift crying on and off. Apparently co-worker number 1 was oblivious and didn't know we'd divorced, just thought ex had quit. What do you see when you look in the mirror each morning? My friend was having some body issues, and she asked me this question since I was one of the most confident people she knew. She learned maybe a bit too much that day. Okay, that's actually a really deep question. Like, think about that. I don't know what I see when I look in the mirror. What do you guys see? Let me know. Like, does anyone else think this is really intense? Because I do. I had no friends in summer school, and a girl asked me if I had any friends. Like, straight up. Do you have any friends? Then became friends with me, but still. When I surprised my girlfriend with a gift, I told her I got a gift for her. I gave it to her, and later she asked when she was going to get her gift. Somehow I'm gaining respect from girls because of this post. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video, and have a wonderful day. Specialist appointment, and they did the normal thing of checking contact details. They asked if the contact number and details for my wife were still correct. I started crying. My wife passed away this time 12 months ago. Surprising how much one simple question asked in total innocence can bring you to your knees. What's on her face, ma'am? Little girl. I used to be a cashier and had terrible acne at the time. Ugh, kids. Who'd have them? Do you know what I mean? No, I'm joking. They're just so brave. They have absolutely no barrier when it comes to things they'll say when they're that sort of age. You know what I mean? Like me, for example, we used to have a fish and chip shop at the top of our road, where I used to live in my hometown, and we'd go there quite often. Anyway, Ken, big ups Ken. He worked there. And he didn't even have big teeth, but little old me must have thought he had big teeth because I called him Buck Teeth Ken or something. Yeah, and it really upset him. So I went home, wrote him a letter and took it back as an apology. Like I should have, Like, that was rude of me. If my younger self was stood in front of me right now, I'd slap that silly girl silly. But yeah, I ended up being bullied in school for having big front teeth, so I guess karma came and bit me in the bum. Someone once asked me, don't you want to be a mum? Yes, I do. But as I'm single, over 40 and not rich, that's probably not going to happen, and it devastated me. I had to say, yes, I'd love that, and then excuse myself to go home and cry. Non-verbal, but the nurse at the flu shot station seemed unsure whether to give me the under 65 or over 65 consent form. If I'm going to be mistaken for being that much older than my actual age, at least it should be in the context of me getting a senior discount. So when are you going back for your master's degree? I was so proud of getting my bachelor's and had no intention of going back because how rough school was for me. One day I said to my mum I was going out with friends, and she asked, "You have friends?" Course, savage from the mumsy. My loving girlfriend, I know, backdoor brag, and I were watching a show that opens with a stoner dude playing video games, when his hard-working girlfriend pulls up outside and he scrambles to pretend like he wasn't being a lazy slob. My girlfriend off-handled says, "Oh man, just like us." About a year ago, I'd been out of work for 6 months while she had a steady job. For the record, I didn't get stoned and play video games. I was constantly applying for jobs and dealing with emotional fallout of having a dozen job interviews that fell through for various reasons. It was just an innocent comment about the girlfriend getting home, but geez. I saw a thing about a little girl who asked a World War II veteran if they'd do it again, and he replied, "I'd do it again, just for you." I almost cried. I work at a pretty boring convenience store, and my neighbour down the street, young, maybe 12 to 13-year-old, was there. Good kid, usually hangs out there and talks to me. One day, I was drawing cartoons for him by his request, and he said, "Wow, you're really good at making cartoons. Why don't you just quit this job and become an animator or make comic books?" Really bummed me out, because when I was his age, that's all I wanted to do, but never was financially ever given even the slightest opportunity to go to school for something like that. And I'll never have the motivation for stuff like that working 50-plus hour weeks in retail just to barely make ends meet. Plus, I remember being his age and thinking people could still do whatever they want when they grow up. When are you going to finish your theses? How do I ask out? Guy name that isn't me. I could never imagine getting cancer at such a young age. How are you this positive? I've stopped counting the amount of people, especially working at the hospital, I'd expect a bit more sensitivity from them, that have asked me that. Yes, I'm mid-20s, but it's not a choice that I'm staying strong. It's a freaking survival. Every time someone asks me that, it feels like getting punched. Are you okay? You seem a little off. I've been diagnosed with chronic depression and paranoia disorders for years, and I thought I was doing a decent job hiding it from all my friends, but apparently it wasn't good enough, I guess. Thank you all for the massive amount of support you guys have shown me. It truly means the world. That's another thing as well. Like if a family member or friend notices that you're in a bad mood, it just puts me in a bad mood. And then I'm like, I can't get out of it. Do you know what I mean? Not so much puts me in a bad mood. I mean, like if I wasn't in a bad mood initially, I was just being maybe a bit quiet or like not myself. Then someone points it out, that's it. I'm fully in a rubbish mood then. Back in 6th grade, we were watching a film in my science class. Of course, my table took this opportunity to just chat. Don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but my friend finds out I didn't know about the word. Knew the body part, just not the term. I didn't get to explain that to the table because his immediate response was, "Didn't your dad ever have the talk with you?" I spent the rest of the period with my head down crying. My friend kind of freaked out. He demanded that no one at the table say anything naughty related because he thought that maybe I was crying because I wasn't mature enough to talk about that stuff yet. I told him later that night on RuneScape that my dad had been arrested about a year or two ago, and that was the reason for my reaction. I'm 25 now, and definitely over it, lol, but at the time, that question destroyed me. It was good though. He was the first person I talked to about it, and it brought us closer at the time. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos coming daily.